Hey friends, we are back for our last day of our Fletcher and the Falling Leaves project. My leaves are all dry now, so I'm going to be working on my messy mat still. But what I want to do is I'm going to actually take my leaves and I'm going to flip them over so they don't get messed up while I'm working on Fletcher. So your sub is going to give you a sheet of this brown paper to make Fletcher, and we're going to do this as a draw along. And remember, that means that I'm going to draw and then you are going to draw. That's really important. You don't want to work ahead because you don't know exactly what I'm going to tell you to do. So we're going to be starting with the top of Fletcher's head, and we want his head to be pretty close to the top of our paper, but we don't want it to actually touch. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take three fingers, and I'm going to lay them right at the top of my paper. And underneath my fingers, I'm going to make a little mark. And that's where I'm going to be starting for the top of Fletcher's head. Now, that's not the whole top of his head. That would be silly. But what I'm going to do from that is I'm going to make a line, a rainbow line, going on either side of it. So I'm going to bring that mark over to this side. And then I'm going to bring that mark over to this side. It has just a little bit of a curve, but you can see this is a pretty long line. It's almost as long as my whole hand, and my hands are bigger than yours, so yours should be pretty big. On the sides, I only have maybe 2 fingers of space on either side. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give Fletcher some fur on the side of his face. So we're going to make some zigzags, and we're going to make 3 zigzags, and it looks like this. I'm going to go zig out, zag in, zig out, zag in, zig out, zag in. So just 3 zigzags. Zigzag 1, zigzag 2, zigzag 3. Once I have that on this side, I'm going to jump over to the other side of my paper and I'm going to do the same thing, just 3 zigzags. We're going to go zig out, zag in, zig out, zag in, zig out, and zag in. You don't want a bunch of those, you just need 3. If we get too many, we won't have enough room for the rest of his face. All right, now we're going to take the ends of our zigzag lines and we're going to bring them down to the center in a point. And this is really important. You don't want to go in towards the middle to make a straight line. You want to come down to make a point because this is going to be Fletcher's nose. You also don't want to bring it way down to here because his face will be way too long. So I'm going to go from here and go into about right there, and then come over here and come in this way. That looks pretty good. Before we start the details on the face, we're going to jump right back up to the top and we're going to work on his ears and his body. So we're going to make a triangle line that's going to start at the top of Fletcher's head and it's going to go out to this corner right here. So my line is going to start on the top of his head. It's going to go all the way out to the corner and then it's going to come all the way back in, a nice big triangle, because foxes have really big pointy ears. We can do the inside of his ear. We just make a smaller triangle shape. We're going to go out to that corner and back in. All right, we're going to jump over to the other side and do the same thing. We're going to start at the top of his head. We're going to go out to the corner and back in, and then we can make that small triangle inside. Perfect. All right, we are ready to make his body. Now his body, he's gonna be sitting down. So we're gonna make his body start right on the side of his head here and come all the way to the bottom of the paper. This is really important. Your Fletcher might be taller or might be shorter than mine, depending on how big his head is. But the most important thing to remember is that you're gonna bring this line all the way to the bottom of your brown piece of paper. So I'm gonna start right about here on the side of his head, and I'm gonna go out and down until I get to the bottom. And you can see I made a little bit of a mark on my leaves, but that's okay because I had them flipped over. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. I'm gonna start over here and I'm gonna go all the way down to the bottom. Make sure it goes to the bottom on there. Next, we're gonna work on his face. We're gonna jump back up here to his face and we're gonna make that We're gonna start by making his nose, and his nose is pretty easy. We're gonna take our crayon and we're just gonna make a curved line right here at the tip of his nose. Now, don't color his nose in yet because we only have a black crayon, and you might decide that you wanna make his nose a different color. So I'm gonna leave his nose just brown for right now. And then foxes also have this kind of patch right down the center that's a different color. So I'm gonna make a line that comes up, 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 till it hits where his ear is. Or you can start on his ear and bring it down, 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 till it touches the side of his nose. And that leaves me plenty of space right here for his eyeballs. Now, I'm gonna make a pretty simple eyeball, but you can totally make a different type of eyeball if you want to. You just need to make sure they're about the same size. We want them to be symmetrical. So I'm gonna keep mine pretty simple. I'm just gonna make a circle with a smaller circle inside, and I do want his eyes to be black, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in with my crayon. And then I'm gonna jump over here and I'm gonna try to make one about the same size, and my smaller circle inside, and then fill that in with my black crayon. And that looks pretty good. Fletcher's starting to come along. All right, we're gonna move on to his feet. We're gonna go all the way down to the bottom of his belly here. Now, we're making sure we're drawing this time inside of these two lines. We wanna be inside here. Don't draw them out here, because when you cut it out, they will be cut off. So we're gonna draw just his front feet, and we're gonna draw two pretty good sized rainbow lines. That's gonna be 1 foot, and next to it, I'm gonna make another one. And then to make the toes, we're just gonna add a couple of lines going straight down. Now, foxes tend to have really big tails, so we're going to be using the rest of our space here to make his tail. And to do that, we're gonna do another triangle line, but this time it has to start in the right place. We have to really watch where we're looking at. So I'm not gonna start right on where his head and his body are connected. I'm gonna move down about 2 fingers from where that is, and I'm gonna make my line starting here, and it's gonna go out all the way to the edge of my paper, and then I'm gonna stop. Some of you are gonna have a little bit less room, and some of you are gonna have more, but you gotta make sure you get to the edge here. Now we're gonna bring that line all the way down until it touches right here on the side of his body. Don't end over here, because that will make it a weird shape and it won't look like it's connected to him. So I'm gonna bring that line all the way down and connect it right on that edge. Foxes also have kind of a lighter tail, or a lighter spot at the tip of their tail. So we're gonna do another zigzag line here to make it look like his tail is a different color. So zigzag, zigzag, zig, and zag. All right, last part, his belly. We wanna make his belly look like it's gonna be a different color. So starting at the tops of his feet, we're gonna make a big curved shape right above his feet, and that's gonna be his belly. Now, you have the option of coloring in your Fletcher the Fox any color you want. You can do realistic colors, which is really just brown and white, or you can use creative colors. On this fox, I went ahead and colored everything that would have been white in with a purple. I colored the inside of his ears and that line down his nose and his belly and his tail, and I used purple for it. On this one, I went a little bit wild. I actually ended up using blue for the inside of his ears and green for his snout and purple for his belly and orange for his tail. But that is going to be totally up to you. You can decide what colors you want to color him in. This one that's all finished and put together, I just used white because that's what a real fox looks like. After you color your fox in, then you are going to go ahead and cut him out. Now this fox is mostly cut out, but I do still have to cut out this little area right here. When we cut out a zigzag line, it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna show you a trick for doing this. When I'm cutting out this zigzag line, if I try to cut the zigzag like this, it's really tight, and then I try to turn my paper, there's a good chance I'm gonna rip the paper. So instead of trying to cut and turn, I'm gonna cut this, then I'm gonna take my scissors out. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna cut from the opposite direction right here. And so I'm gonna cut from this direction all the way in. And when those two lines come together, that piece will just fall right out. Here it is again. I'm gonna cut in from this direction, take my scissors out, come from this direction and cut the opposite way. This is really just challenging on these zigzags. Everything else you guys will be able to cut out with no problems. But I did want to remind you about that. Now, after your Fletcher has been cut out, we're gonna turn over our leaves. We're gonna decide where Fletcher's gonna be. He can be over here on the side. He can be in the middle. You can even turn your leaves this way if you want and put Fletcher going this way. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put my Fletcher right in the middle, because I had that kind of empty spot. So I'm gonna leave Fletcher right there. I'm gonna flip him over. Look, it's got my name all over it. I'm gonna put my grandma kisses. Remember, that's our little dots. Spread those dots out. So far I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 8 grandma kisses is about all you're gonna need for Fletcher. We're gonna flip him over. I wanna make sure he's lined up with the bottom of my paper so he fits. And then I'm gonna give him a massage. Now, I don't want crayon all over my hand, so when I give him a massage, I'm gonna flip the whole thing over and I'm gonna massage the back of my paper. And I'm gonna do that till I count till about 30 to make sure that he's nice and set. All right, friends, that is my Fletcher and the background finished. We're gonna let that finish drying because remember that glue isn't totally dry yet. So we're gonna put this back on the drying rack. I'm so glad you enjoyed this project and I will see you when I get back. Bye guys.